Good evening, this is Kuro. Got a tier 10 game in one of my favorite ships now, Yukikaze. I know I've posted a few of them. I don't know how long this ship's going to be up for sale, so I want to get a bunch of gameplay out there for guys. I know earlier on there were guys asking me about getting some games up, and since I bought the ship, I figure, hey, why not, show off, these battles that I'm playing, grinding the XP mission. Um, the map is Trap. The threats to my ship, there's no CV. I am going to talk about my positioning this game because it's actually pretty on point for a CV match. Um, there's three radars: the Moskva, Buffalo, Alaska. Destroyer-wise, Gearing, Z-46, both of them major threats to my boat if I'm detected. Kagero is a spotting threat to my boat, and right here, while I'm sailing up to ACAP, I want to talk about teamwork because I see this being a hot topic on my YouTube channel, and I see it on the forum where there's no teamwork in this game, yada yada yada. There's no teamwork because frankly, if you're complaining there's no teamwork in this game, you are not taking responsibility for positioning your own ship. It sounds harsh to say that, but I 100% mean that. For example, what is this situation here? I've got a Salem following me. I know this Salem, he's going to want to camp in here. Even if he YOLOs, I'm going to be able to help him a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to give him an option. I know he's coming up here. I'm just going to drop smoke for him. I'm going to drop smoke. I'm going to pull it out this way so if he needs to turn out for some reason, say a radar cruiser comes up or there's a bunch of battleships going hellbent for election down here, um, he's just he's going to have a way to get out quickly. Yep, and right here. Just going to tie it right into the island here and just stretch it on out. I'm going to step on the cap. I know that there's an enemy DD here. Now let's talk about this teamwork. Okay, look at my spacing off this Salem. This is 5.4 kilometers. This Salem is probably 4 kilometers off me, somewhere around in there. My smoke's being laid out. Um, Unless I run into a Kagero, I'm going to be able to spot the Z46 and the gearing well in advance before he spots me. My Salem's most likely going to have free shots into this guy. So I don't want to beat around the bush. I don't want to, hug these islands like a lot of destroyers do. I want to push up here and break this line here. I want to show my team what's here. And while that's happening, I spot the gearing. Hey, voila, teamwork in the making. Look at that. I've got a smoked up cruiser. I've just spotted the gearing. We're looking at a 10, 11 kilometer shot for this Salem on this gearing. And I'm just going to slam on the brakes. This gearing, what's he going to do? Is he going to try to push me? He knows where I'm at. I'm located. Is he going to try to rush into me and into this Salem? It's not going to happen. He's going to die very quickly doing that. So I'm just going to focus on keeping this guy spotted. Salem's kind of sort of shooting at the guy. And boom. That's what I'm talking about. Forced a tier 10 destroyer to blow his smoke for nothing other than, trying to keep him from being shot at by a cruiser that he can't spot. And then the good old 1-2 punch. Destroyer drops smoke, you dump your torps into the smoke, and maybe you get lucky. Now, if you look, this is the only time my positioning gets away from where I would be if there was a CV in the game. If there was a CV in the game, instead of coming out here, I would push more like this. I'd be sitting basically right in here. So anytime a CV started coming in. If he starts coming in, I'm just pulling back closer towards my Salem. Um, but the rest of my team's pushing up here, and I know I'm going to have more support back in here shortly. And what I'm looking to try to make sure there's no radar cruiser that sneaks right down these islands and is able to radar my Salem. F3 torpedoes being F3 torpedoes, they smacked that gearing pretty good. Now that gearing did use his damage control repairing something, and he's going to flood a little bit. I'm calling target on the Buffalo. There's the radar. I basically was just seeing if that Buffalo was going to radar. The reason why I'm looking to be able to tell is his radar on cooldown? If it is, I can push in and make a play. And the key to working around radar is knowing when the radar's up. You've got to be able to tell, when your openings are. If you're not, scouting that radar, of course it looks like radar is an impenetrable wall. You have no information about what's going on with it. So instead, I sit there and I just dip barely into radar range and I spot it. Now, these torpedoes are garbage torps. This Montana, as soon as he gets close to the border, he's going to turn out. Um, Honestly, I should have just thrown those back at the gearing, or the Hindenburg's kind of a waste. Now, this is 100%, a lesson to learn about fighting destroyers. Gearing versus basically a Kagero. Gearing should crap all over this. Uh, he's at 7.4. I'm at 17. Yes, there's a big HP difference. This guy should be able to delete well over half of my HP before I would be able to do anything to him. However, situational awareness. You can see the gearing smoke is still up. It hasn't started burning off. The gearing smoke cooldown generally is sometime between, call it 23 seconds and 30 seconds for the cooldown, depending on if he's running Jack of all trades, depending on if he's running the reduced cooldown on the consumable flag. And that's giving me a timer that I can look at and see this gearing, he's not going to be able to smoke to protect himself. So basically, my smoke's up in 7 seconds. I'm going to bait a gunfight with this gearing because as soon as this gearing does this and shoots at me, 11.1 kilometers, baby. Well, that puts his detection. These guys are going to act as my spotter. So I shoot the gearing. Now this is the issue with the gearing. If you notice, I hit a lot of those shots back in here. This is all 21 millimeter. My HE will just shatter on that. That's a strength of the gearing. This is something that doesn't get mentioned a lot when you're talking about gearings. Um, one of the common ways that gearings kill destroyers is they either just point their bow at you, and the reason why that's strong is gearing has a short bow section. So this all saturates relatively quickly, and then you're doing very little damage to the destroyer or to the gearing while he's able to, rake the rest of your ship. This is particularly effective if you have a broadside destroyer. You're able to use AP from the gearing standpoint on another destroyer. You can really wreck things quickly, even though you're only using 66% of your DPM right here. This angle here can be effective, except you start to open up more of the superstructure, that kind of thing. But if you can bait shells into hitting your stern here, from Japanese DDs, US DDs, the Pan Asians, this section just shatters HE, and it can save you a lot of HP. Now, on the flip side, if you're broadside and they're smart enough to flip to AP, you're going to eat a bunch of damage there for a gearing. Regardless, I'm in a Japanese DD. This is what I want to hit right here. I want to hit basically this right here. Now this is key. I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm just gonna drop the smoke. Now he's lost the ability to shoot at me. He chooses to basically stop shooting, and that's that. That fight could have gone on much longer, and I wouldn't have lost much more than this HP. Unless he was really good at shooting in smoke, which there are some destroyer players out there that can do that, particularly with something like gearing that has a fast reload. You can just shoot at your shell hits, or aim at in between the tracers to hit the ship shooting in the smoke. But now at this point, I'm starting to enter a phase where the close range torpedo boats, and when I say close range, I don't mean like YOLO torping. I mean probably the best analogy I can think of is like your golf game, your close game, putting on the green, where you're going to systematically close with the enemy and take systematic shots to pick them apart and try to get the most out of your torpedo DPM. The ships that are good with this, Fletcher, gearing, running the 10.5 kilometer Fletcher torps, Shimikaze, any of the F3 boats, Kagero, even with the 10 kilometer upgraded torps, is pretty solid. Any boat that has really fast torpedoes, but not a lot of range. And when I define a lot of range, typically 10 kilometers, that's a lot of range. So I'm just closing. I'm focusing on spotting my priority target. Now, unfortunately, I'm not close enough to get that spot, or this Kurfürst, I think, is close enough. He's actually self-spotting that buffalo, so I don't get that spotting damage. But if you look, I'm not dumping all of my torps on one target. Excuse me. I've been up. I'm running on 3 hours sleep right now, with number 2 being sick. Dropping one set of torps here. Now I'm gonna pause this. Okay. 39 seconds. Just dropped F3s in the water on a target 6.1 kilometers away. Off they go. My torpedoes are already arriving on this Montana. Now, he turned out at the last minute. That saved him eating an additional torpedo. Torpedoes are well on the way. The Montana started speeding up a bit. Nope, not quite. Pause. There we go. That's not a lot of time. When you're looking at ships that, they've got, 15, 20-second rudder shifts, sometimes longer than that. How are you dodging that? That's really my question. These Japanese torpedoes, people complain, oh, they're so useless. Those torpedoes were there, in there about 30 seconds. In that time frame, really, how much can that ship move? Okay, he can speed up, he can slow down, but turning wise, how far can he move in that time frame? Obviously, if he immediately locks his rudder over the moment you drop torpedoes, okay. But that's not likely to happen. You know, this is one of the fundamental reasons why I don't believe Japanese torpedoes are broken. I believe that people are not utilizing torpedoes correctly because they do dumb shit like try to torp this Montana that's running away. You know, trying to torp this Yamato, which if you look at the angle difference. Look how much broadside there. Look how much there. You wanna open these targets up. I talk about positioning. You need to position to turn this into this. And as soon as you realize that, this close range torpedo game gets absolutely nuts with the amount of damage you can just start cranking out. Now, again, take a look at my positioning here. If there's a CV in the match, what's he going to do? Fly into me? Okay, there's double Kurfürst right there for AA support. You know, these Kurfürsts, they're forcing these guys to angle. So I'm just going to push up here. I'm controlling the distance. I don't want to be spotted by these guys. I just want to get nice and close so I've got quick times to target. This guy's going to die because he blew his damage control. I know I didn't get the floods, but anytime a Japanese destroyer lands 2 sets of torps and doesn't get a flood, their damage control was active. Again, 28 seconds, 6.5 kilometers. This target's still running away. This one's dead. Torps, you know, aren't going to be reloaded in time by the time to get to this guy. Just going to drop another set on this target. And I'm just anticipating he's going to try to turn out a little bit by the time those torpedoes arrive. That's why I aim a little short of the indicator. I'm predicting he's going to turn that way as he sees these torps. But he can't really avoid that damage. Nice 2 torpedo hits there. Now, I actually almost make a miscalculation here. Those torpedoes, I glanced at briefly. I thought they were 67 knots. They're not. I'm a little target fixated here. Yeah, 20-kilometer torps. Another 2 torpedo hits, permanent flooding. And you can just see, you know, my torpedoes, 22 seconds, you know, would be up to deal with this guy. Now, this guy, he's low HP. I'm just going to go ahead, smoke up, just stretch the guns out, try to get whatever damage I can out of this. Obviously, this game's a win. You know, it is what it is. I mean, this is how you pick a team apart with this. You systematically roll back the threats. You know, if there was a CV flying planes here, you know, I'm just not going to let that CV be able to persistently attack me because look at my positioning. I'm actually behind an Iowa at this point. And it's that kind of positioning that really makes you nasty to deal with. Just give your team time to close. You know, those battleships, yeah, they're not interested in closing in usually until the middle of at least the mid game. You know, by the end game they'll typically start really running at each other. And that's really when you can start cleaning house because those ships were all pinned in by AP angles from my battleships. So all I got to do is just walk right up and dump a set of torps right into their broadside, and there's not a whole heck of a lot they can do about it. Now at this point I know that this game's pretty much done. I'm just sailing up here, see what I can see. Actually, I think I was AFK playing this part. I knew I was gonna have a long drive, so probably was playing with the dinosaurs while this was going on. But you know, I think this game had some lessons that people could learn about destroyer play from forcing the forcing the teamwork. You know, there was a comment on my YouTube that destroyers have kind of lost their way, or at least that's how I've interpreted uh, some of these posts. And I don't believe destroyers have lost their way. Your job is to shape the battle space for your team. You take a look at this game. I basically pushed up to the cap. I forced teamwork. Basically, I knew where that Salem was intending to go. I'm just gonna drop a smoke there, push out, scout the enemy destroyer, locate him. He gets shot at by my smoked up cruiser. There's not a whole lot of counterplay for him there, so he ends up smoking up. Now at that point, I've won the reconnaissance battle for my team. I have I have cut off the enemy team's vision into that cap while I am providing pretty much all of the spotting information for my team. And that's what I mean by winning the reconnaissance battle. By uh, just those actions alone, probably would have won a say cap. Now I get lucky and the gearing eats the torp, and that makes him much easier to deal with later. But there was a lot of teamwork there that really didn't need any sort of, you know, discussion about. It requires you to understand, hey, this cruiser is probably going to want to camp in this location. He's 3-4 kilometers behind me. I'm just going to drop this smoke here for him. Then I'm just gonna scout and just see what's going on. And there's a lot of value to that. If there is CV in the match, that Salem would actually be able to push inside the cap to support me, knowing that I'm not going to let a radar cruiser sneak up on him, and he can support me with AA pretty much from almost the middle of the cap by the time, or um, not quite the middle of the cap if I remember where I smoked up correctly. Uh, but his AA would cover well over the middle of the cap, and that's extremely valuable. Now, obviously, you can't rely that a cruiser is going to be smart enough to push up there. So, again, my ship, my positioning, I just fall back within radar range if there's CVs in this, or within AA range of my team. There's no need for me to get all crazy. All I need to do is just spot that one line so radar cruisers can't sneak right up down those islands and surprise my team. So anyway, I hope you like this game. It had I think, some really good lessons about, timing consumable usage, uh, forcing teamwork. You you can't, just post in chat and expect that you're going to get, clan battles level of cooperation. You know, your ship, your responsibility for your position, and you've got the ability to just make things happen. Even if that Salem just YOLO'd right into that cap, you know what? That enemy team's not seeing that Salem until he's already a third of the way through the cap, just because of my smoke. There is value in it. Would I prefer the Salem to play how he did? Obviously, yes. However, even if he makes a bad choice, I'm at least giving him an opportunity to either correct his play or help him along his way. And at that point, I would just try to get whatever value out of that ship before he goes down. Um, so I'm going to go on ahead and cut this one off. I think this one has. I hope it helps some of the guys that I see that seem like they're I don't know if they're struggling with these concepts or what, but I just want to try to illuminate out how I see the game. I'm not looking at it from the standpoint of, what can these ships do for me? I'm looking at it from the standpoint of I can't control your ship, but I can control my ship. If I've had games where there's battleships that they can't seem to press the W key more than once, and I'm already up there 3 kilometers off the cap. I've requested support a couple times, on the way, and they just have no interest in pushing up. I'm I'm not gonna hang out. My job is to provide the eyes for my teammates, and it sounds, sounds like a dick move maybe, but I'm just gonna take my spotting elsewhere where I've got teammates that are going to actually, be in a position that they can take advantage of what I am providing the team. Now, if those battleships want to follow me, fine. I've got no problem with that. But they've lost that initial opportunity. I'm a destroyer. I'm relatively fast getting around the map. I'm just going to go hop, even the next cap over, I can be productive. Um, even a cruiser player, most high tier battleships are fast enough. If you're not in a position where you can be effective for your team, take the time and reposition. Don't sit there and just try to make something work because you're not likely to be successful with that. Invest that minute or two to get where you can really put the screws to the enemy team, and that will help a lot with your frustration level. Um, Not getting AA support at the caps, go go elsewhere. If you see a cruiser that is, you know, providing AA support near a cap, go there. That dude's he's in it. Smoke him up. Help him out. He'll help you out. And again, you don't need to talk about this. You can just look at the mini map, you can see what's going on, and then just you're the destroyer player. You have the ultimate initiative for all team play. You know, if I look at it where you can't shoot things if you don't have my vision. At the fundamental level, when I look at destroyers, I decide who lives and who dies based on what I spot. And I encourage my team to shoot, the high value targets by calling target on them. Obviously, I can't force them to, thou shall shoot this target, but I can encourage them. And it for the most part, it does work. Uh, I think most players understand that if they see a radar ship in the open, most people these days actually shoot the radar cruiser rather than, the angled battleship. It's not always 100% the case, but again, just be patient. Be patient, and if it's just not happening, just go reposition elsewhere. Because if you stay on a flank where your team's being ineffective, you're probably going to end up losing that flank anyway. And you're probably needed elsewhere to maybe win that flank and give your team some breathing room that way. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. Went on a little bit of a rant there about teamwork. But honestly, I think it needs to happen because I think there's bad perceptions right now. People aren't seeing the game as I see it, and I think that a conversation needs to be had about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the game. I would love to hear your comments about teamwork or anything else in this video. So leave the comments below. I hope you guys are having a great night, and I will talk to you later.